Today we're checking out the movie Barney's version, based on the novel of acclaimed Jewish novelist Mordecai Richler, starring Dustin Hoffman, Minnie Driver, and Paul Giamatti. Barney Panofsky is really an eccentric gentleman who loves to love, drink, and get married. One of the great things about this movie is that it brings together Jewish values, comedy, and much more. We had an opportunity to catch up with Paul Giamatti. Let's take a closer look.
That's for you. I even signed it. You screwed over everyone you ever knew or cared about. Now the whole world's gonna know what a murderer you really are. You could use a mint.
Barney Panofsky.
It's fine. Got her pregnant, man.
Mazel tov.
How do you even know it's yours?
Well, I'm the father.
Then you must be an albino. A well-bred woman makes a nice Psyche Kugel, has a beautiful rack. Many successful marriages have been built on far less.
Sorry, we haven't met. I'm Barney.
I'm Miriam.
Are you doing anything later? Because we could still catch a flight to Rome.
The bride may take issue with that.
Will you put that out? A lot of my relatives have asthma.
Don't be ridiculous. We just met at your wedding. It's not funny.
For the first time in my life, I am truly, seriously in love.
So am I, Barney. So am I.
And is she the one? Is she the mother of your children?
Absolutely.
All right, then, let's do it.
I don't know where to start with how inappropriate this all is.
Why don't you just skip ahead from where I'm annoying and inappropriate to where I'm charming and endearing?
That was my first gun. I want you to have it.
I should kill you for this.
What you should have done was call first.
How come you didn't mention this gun?
I'm just gonna keep talking because I'm afraid that if I stop, there's gonna be a pause and you're gonna say I should get going.
There it was, the pause. I'm still here.
Barney's version. Now, there's very few films out there that incorporate love, drunkenness, and span decades. Tell us a little bit about how you got connected to the project.
Well, it was fairly standard for me. I mean, the script came to me from the producer, Robert Lantos, and they were interested in me. I read it, and I was very into it. I mean, I knew of the writer, and I knew of the book, but I had never read them. And so the script was my first experience of any of it. But I loved it. I mean, there was nothing not to like about it, so I was very enthusiastic about doing it.
One of the things that they were looking for in Barney was lovable. You know.
Yeah.
And
yeah. No, you have to. It won't work if you don't like him in some way, or feel that there's something likable about him.
Right.
Yeah.
And how did you get prepared for this role?
Well, you know, the book's somewhat autobiographical, so I actually watched footage of Mordecai Richler, the author, which was very helpful. Physically and kind of his manner and what he was like. You know, I spent time in Montreal, which was really helpful too, because it's like you go to the actual place, and especially this Jewish community that he grew up in, it's still very much there. You know, it's a huge part of that city's cultural life, so you can absorb that kind of stuff. I looked at the book a bit. I didn't want to get too caught up in the book because it's very different. I met lots of Mordecai Richler's family, things like that. But a lot of it was really just, frankly, a really good screenplay that I just spent a lot of time with and just let take me where I felt like it should. So, you know.
Now, there's a lot of highs and lows throughout the film, but you know, Barney really loves to love. And, you know, even one of my favorite scenes is the wedding, the second wedding.
Yeah.
And you see Miriam from across the room,
Right.
and it's like that moment, and you're just like, that's her.
Well, it's interesting too because obviously that's not something everybody does or
Right.
should. I mean, it's a definitely questionable, deeply questionable thing that he does. But what's interesting about it, because a lot of people sort of said, why would she be attracted to this guy if he does that kind of thing? And he's sincere about it. He actually, truly falls in love that fast with this woman. In love with her, too. It's not just he wants to get laid or chase this woman down and just get laid. He's truly crazily in love with this woman like that. After hearing this wonderful thing she says about the cigars and seeing how smart and sexy she is, he's just like, this is it. What am I doing? And he knows he's making a mistake with the other woman. He knows he's not doing it for the right reasons. He knows that. So
yeah. And
but you're right. He does. He loves to be in love. It's true.
And you can see that love even in the relationship with his father. He like depends on him almost.
Yeah.
And cares deeply for him, knowing
Loves
that
him.
is he okay?
Yeah. Yeah, doesn't want people to treat him like crap either. He's not embarrassed by him. He's just defensive about him.
Right.
He's not embarrassed
And you can see that also, like when he gave the gun to you.
Yeah.
At your wedding, he's like, "This is my first gun," and then you open it,
and it's amazing. What's really funny is the first time I read the script, that was the moment that when I finished the script stood out to me the most, and I thought I loved everything about it, but that was the moment that I thought I really want to do this movie because I love that.
Right.
I love the fact that I pull him away from that table full of people, and I think it's hilarious what he's saying to them, and then he gives me a gun, and it's fantastic. He's just a fantastic guy, that father.
Yeah. And of course, when he actually passes, I think that's some of the beauty of the screenplay and the whole process of the movie is. Even when he's at this massage parlor, and he's rubbing his head, and goodbye, boy chick,
Right. Yeah.
I was like, and I just started laughing. I was like,
it is funny though. It's funny too. It's funny. Yeah. It's funny. It's sad and funny, and it's like, and it's perfect way for that guy to die. Too is in a massage parlor. So it's funny. Yeah.
What was the most challenging part for you in the movie, and what was the best part for you?
One of the best parts was actually that wedding sequence to do, which took about 3 days to do, and was just a really good time. I mean, it managed to actually feel like there was some kind of actual event happening. The way it was shot, and it's an amazing sequence, and it's really incredibly well done in the screenplay, and it was just a real blast to do. It felt weirdly real, like it was really happening. That was great. The hardest thing, actually, for me, I think, was this sequence that takes place in Rome, which was actually the first thing we shot, and was the most difficult acting part of it, because the character is it was the hardest to figure out what's going on with the guy in that sequence, because he actually doesn't do a lot. He's very passive, weirdly, actually, in part of this movie. Before he meets Miriam, he's kind of weirdly passive. And it was hard to do, and the character's not as much fun. And I was actually, frankly, the one thing I was most anxious about in terms of the aging was actually doing that part of it. Because I thought that potentially will look totally unconvincing, that I'm 28.
Was it hard for you to go from from decade to decade? Like, feel like, obviously every character has their own development. Yeah. And, going from decade to decade and going back and forth, it just...
No, it was, it was part of the pleasure. It was challenging, and it was fun. And, sure, I had to sort of try and stay on top of it and try to keep the through line of it and make sure that it seemed like the same guy. Actually, the oldest man, the old man part of it was the most fun, because he's the most at the point that he doesn't care what anybody thinks of him. So it's actually, that was the most fun stuff to do. And I actually like wearing that makeup and stuff like that, so it was an enjoyable thing. It's challenging, but it was enjoyable.
And one of the things, going back to what you're saying, like the wedding was a really interesting part for you.
Yeah.
Have you been to a lot of Jewish weddings? And if it was something that you experienced the first time?
Yeah. Some. My wife is Jewish, and so we had a very low key wedding, but it was somewhat Jewish. We had the chuppah and things like that. But do the horror or anything. Oh no, actually, I just went to one not that long ago, a few months ago, which was very. It had a kind of hippie quality to it, but they still did all of that stuff too. It's kind of a hippie Jewish wedding, but they ended up doing all of that stuff anyway. And it's great. It's totally great. And it is a bit of it's not a cliche, but it's a thing everybody has a feeling of and for. So it was fun to actually sort of get to do it. It was fun.
I mean, when you're on that chair and then it's just like, and you're just like,
that's a great.
Did this actually
what
happen?
did I just do?
Exactly.
No, absolutely, and that's exactly what it should be. It's like, oh my God, what did I just do? Why do you think he runs away?
We've met that woman.
Oh, we've met that woman,
and now you're married to her.
And then you're married to her, and you're like, oh my God, what did I do? And that's why he runs away. He runs away because he meets somebody he loves too. But oh my God, he's just like, what did I just do? No, it's very funny, that shot of her screaming like that. I looked at it and like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. You know, that's the realization. No, and how many people have felt that? I'm sure countless people at their wedding, men and women, have felt, what the hell did I just do? So,
when you're playing these characters, and especially the family has been involved with the production, how was it, interacting with them like on the set?
They were great. I mean, I think this was a wonderful thing for them. His Mordecai Richler's wife is still alive. She's an amazing woman, and that's who Miriam, the character Miriam, is based on. And she's this very elegant, amazing woman. I think it was kind of a great thing for her. He died not that long ago, and his family was great, actually. And it's funny because this is an instance where you have a guy who, it's not like I'm going to make him look worse than he presented himself. I mean, it's an autobiographical book to some extent. It's a guy who's not afraid of looking bad and doesn't really give a crap what people think of him, Mordecai Richler. So it's not like they were like, oh my God, don't make him look bad, because it's like he made himself look pretty bad. He didn't care, which is amazing. So they were also just incredibly smart, generous, nice people. It was a pleasant experience in that regard.
One of the things, like in Judaism, is obviously to honor the mother and father, and you definitely capture that. As Dustin Hoffman was working with you to develop those scenes. Like, did you ad-lib at all? Did you feel like an emotion, or was it really towards
he did some. There's a couple of those scenes are mostly him talking. Yeah, he did. What's interesting about him is that I think he's such a professional that he will ad-lib, but he always goes back to the script. And there's some of them I think are in there. But one of the great things about doing this movie was how good the script was. Actually, you didn't need to go too far afield. He would ad-lib sometimes from an acting point of view to try to sort of shake the scene up sometimes, or see if you could do something different with it. And sometimes he would actually... I can remember actually doing some of those scenes, and he said, can we throw the script out for a while? Do you mind? He would say to the director, we're just going to throw it out and say it in our own words for a while. It's a great way of doing things, and a great way of trying to find your way into the scenes. But he was just fun, I mean, he's a very sweet guy, and kind of fatherly and paternal guy, actually, in funny ways. Very sweet, so it wasn't hard to feel loving towards him like he was my dad.
Great. Well, thanks so much for your time.
Okay, man. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
As you can see, Barney's version has a lot of different layers to it. You can learn more about the movie at barneysversionthemovie.com. This is R. Ron Herman, and thank you for watching.